Hey, John, we got plenty of stuff to talk about here coming in. We'll follow along with that Van Natta story, too, now that we just talked about it a little bit. We'll see what ends up happening there. Let's get into the Eagles a little bit, John. We've been running down our top 25. It's been a good list, I would say. I've been pretty impressed with you and Kratzy's list. I don't know how much change you could have in a list like this, but I didn't like where – I didn't like where Goddard fell, where Devontae Smith fell, where Cooper DeJean fell over Landon. Who else did I thought should have been higher? Bond at 11 we talked about that a little bit, but now we are down to number 6. Number 7 was Cooper DeJean, pretty crazy for the Rook. Number 8 was Landon Dickerson. Number 9 was Devontae Smith. John, I think that's where I would have put Coop right there. 9, below Quignon at 10. Well, I probably would have had Vaughn a little bit above her, and then you have Devontae Landon. That would make more sense to me with those two guys ahead of Cooper. But I see why he did. I see why Ed did what he did to some extent. But now we're down to 7 with 6 on the radar. Johnny Mac, number 6. We are down. We're reaching the conclusion of this list. Who is number 6 on the top 25 Eagles list from SI?
Well, again, I think it's a little bit too low, and that's Jordan Mailata, number 6, who, if you believe, it's interesting to me when I talk about pedigree a lot, and we all know Jordan's story by now, 7th round pick. And kind of amazing he was even a 7th round pick, and the Eagles invested that into him, but never played a down of American football, became an international player, got drafted. So he lost that exemption. They couldn't use him. Now they use it on Lakin Al-Hahi. I always screw up his name.
Al-Hahi, yeah, whatever it is.
But he has an exemption. Jordan never had an exemption because he was drafted. And that meant they had to keep him on the roster, and they did. And I tell the story all the time. I remember by year 3, like, people were forgetting about Jordan Mailata. It was like, all right, well, this isn't going to work. And why would it work? And it's kind of silly to think about it working. And now, I remember being in the back of the Eagles locker room, being the only one talking to him. The 1 year is on injured reserve, because, he had a back injury, I think it was at the time, and couldn't practice, and he was a little bit down. And I think everybody, that would probably be year 2. I think everybody was kind of saying, all right, well, this isn't going to work. And then all of a sudden you go into, I guess it was the 21 season, injuries crop up. And I still remember his first game vividly, because we're all saying, oh, this is going to be a disaster. They were playing San Francisco, and Nick Bosa was healthy, and you're like, this is not going to be good. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. And I swear to you, from that day on, he just took off like a jet. And to the point where he's become arguably the best left tackle in football. And I only say arguably because, for whatever reason, people still go back to the pedigree and say, well, how could you put him ahead of Tristan Wirfs, who's having, by the way, surgery that broke yesterday, or somebody like that?
Oh, yeah.
Because he's better. PFF had him as the best player in football, regardless of position last year. Regardless of position.
Player, yeah. 95.2 grade on PFF last year. Yeah.
And he did make it. He didn't even make the Pro Bowl.
That is insane.
Now, he was second team All-Pro, so the people who know a little bit better did realize how good he was. And he did miss some time last season with an injury. So he missed, I think it was 4 games, where Fred Johnson kind of persevered a little bit. So Fred deserves credit for that. But so a lot of people said that was held against him, but that's kind of bull crap. I mean,
still had over 1,000 snaps last year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, if you include the postseason. But remember, they played 4 games in the postseason. So, and that, but so that the only point I say there is it matters in his playing. But remember, Pro Bowl, and I think a lot of people have trouble with this, and All Pro and all the awards, it's a regular season thing. Doesn't include the playoffs. And a lot of people say, well, it should. Well, it doesn't. So it's not, it doesn't. So missing 4 games in the regular season does hurt a little bit. But I mean, Pro Bowl, come on. He still hasn't made a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, that's
But
crazy.
he was second team All Pro last year. And from the moment, so 2021, he was third of 83 when it came to his PFF grade. Third of 83 tackles who were ranked. 2022 was his worst year. He was 9th of 81. So he's still top 10. 2023, he was third of 81. And last year is number 1 of 81. And by the way, he was the second best in pass blocking and the best in run blocking.
Yep.
Just an amazing story. I talk about it all the time. An amazing player. Just, he's about 380 now. 6'8". And he's just incredibly athletic for being that size. You just don't see people that big and that strong that are athletic as Jordan Mailata. And, Stoutland helped. He was the one who coined Stoutland University. So they're helping each other because now Stout gets all the merchandise for charity.
Right.
And all that
that was a big coin, that name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he went on, he did that when they introduced
Football,
and they let the players,
Yeah,
and he said Jeff Stoutland University. And I bring that up because, and Stoutland has said this to me on a couple of occasions. Usually when you get a player from college, even a top tier player, you're correcting something or you're trying to improve something they did wrong. He didn't know how to do anything. So Stoutland got him from the ground floor.
Right.
Didn't have to break any bad habits to rebuild. Sometimes that's easier. And in the case of Jordan Mailata, it's worked beyond anybody's wildest imagination. I always give Brian Baldinger and Ross Tucker a credit because they identified, and they're former offensive linemen, they identified very early to the point I kind of laughed at them. I admitted to them. I admitted to their face. I go, guys, settle down. He never played football before. And they ended up being right. But, and I also say this to Baldy and Ross, and good-naturedly, I would have liked to see you guys, what you were saying year 3 when he wasn't playing at all. And everybody was kind of down on and saying this isn't going to work. Because even Stoutland said when he got his opportunity, we asked him, is he ready? And Stoutland, very honest, very Vic Fangio-like, said, I have no idea. I hope so. But you don't know until you see it.
Right.
And so many people along the way, Jordan's given credit to. Joe Roseman, people forget him, Smoking Joe, he calls him. Well, Raven Clark is a guy he talks, a veteran tackle. Tore his Achilles last year, was more of a practice squad guy, but knows how to play, was a big influence on him. And obviously Stoutland being number 1, but also Lane Johnson. Like, it's funny. I had a discussion with Jordan last year, and I asked him, I said, do you know what your PFF grades are? And he said, yeah, mainly from his wife, puts it in a group text because she likes to brag about it.
Right.
And rightfully so. And then he just went into, I shouldn't be higher than Lane. So that's the kind of respect he has for Lane Johnson. and Jason Kelsey and all those guys who sort of mentored him and as he grew up along the way. And now it's funny, guy who never played American football. You could argue he's the biggest leader on this team as well. He's become a captain.
Yep.
It's a really amazing story.
He's got an infectious personality too.
Oh, he's got a huge personality. People gravitate towards him. He's good at everything. The music stuff. It's weird. Some people are just like that. It's an amazing story that I think, and everybody knows it, and we've talked about it a lot, but it's still, we don't talk about it enough. What this has turned into.
It's incredible. It really is. And my mommy points out when he brought up when he sang Tennessee Whiskey, he is a man of many talents. Can anybody in the chat, without looking it up, I know he was a 7th round draft pick. What was the actual number selection that Jordan Mailata was selected? If anybody gets it without looking it up, we'll give you some credit here on the show. John, how does he go up from here? Has he finally gotten over the hump, John, of, okay, it's time to give the guy some Pro Bowl nods, all right? Some first team All-Pro. How is this guy not made a Pro Bowl? I mean, this last 4 years, John, third out of 83, 9th out of 81, as you pointed out, 3rd out of 81, and 1st out of 81. And he doesn't have a Pro Bowl? Come on.
Pedigree, man. Pedigree.
Has he gotten over it? There you go. Villain got it.
Well, he did. The second All-Pro is second team All is more important than Pro Bowl. So
yes, it is. But still, I'd like to see it for the player. Look, John, we talked.
Well, normally you say it about contracts and all. He already got 2 contracts, $2 $60 million
right.
contracts.
No, but I just think at the end of the day, you know what I mean. When a career.
Well, I think it'll matter when you're talking about Hall of Fame down the road.
Right.
I think it'll matter. But that's always, iffy anyway. Especially with positions that reporters and people have tough time understanding and grading, which I would say offensive line is one of them. We talked about how many players are on Hall of Fame trajectories. Jordan's entering his 8th season, I believe, and he's only 28. So he's got a chance to play 4 or 5 years at least at this level. And if he does that, he's a Hall of Fame player. And, still as late as 2021, I guess, when they started training camp, they wanted Andre Dillard to win the job.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
So, I mean, pedigree resonates far more than just.
Is that the year that Stoutland said that, by the way? We'll see if he's ready. Was that the Dillard year?
No, that was the year he was forced to play San Francisco. I forget. I'm probably conflating years. His first start was against San Francisco. But I have to look back. And that was when we just happened to talk to him that week, and it was like, I don't know. He was crossing his fingers like everybody else. And, it looked bad on paper, and it wasn't bad. He held up against one of the best pass rushers in football. And he just took off from there. He just took off. And even that year when they were going back and forth, it was a legitimate competition. Like, I've talked a lot about Tyler Steen. So if they had one practice, Dillard would start,
right,
and then the next Mailata, and then Dillard, Mailata.
I think Dillard got the first one too in camp at the start of camp.
Yeah, Dillard was first, and they kept going back and forth. So it was a legitimate competition. Then Dillard, I think, hurt him. I forget what the injury was, but he injured, and then Mailata. It was just Mailata's job. Very similar to last year with Tyler Steen when he got hurt, and it was just Mekhi Becton stepped in, and that was it. Except they were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it was a lot closer. Tyler Steen was getting all the first team reps last year, and I think he's going to get all the first team reps this year. So to me, it's not as much as a legitimate competition.
Yep, Ill and Villain, by the way, got the draft selection. So put that in your knowledge bank, everybody listening. 233. Remember that. That's where Jordan Mailata was selected. Maybe we'll go down as one of the better Eagles offensive linemen in history. Dare I say that? I think he's on that type of trajectory. We will see. John, as he continues to develop and get better and better and better, I don't know how much better the guy can get. He's basically at the top of the league. But how about that left side of the offensive line, how him and Landon have kind of grown together. And now when I look at those two, I'm like, what a match made in heaven for the left side of an offensive line. I feel like those two are so complementary to each other. What do you have to say about the way that they play together and just how dominant the left side of the offensive line is?
Yeah, and they're like best friends on the team as well. Jordan was best man at Landon's wedding.
Wow, was he? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I knew he was at the wedding. I didn't know he was the best man, though.
Yeah. Might have been vice versa. I think it was Landon's wedding. I don't know. Some of the celebrity Eagles fans will correct me if I'm wrong. One or the other. They both got married, but yeah, they're really good friends. I mean, really good friends off the field. And yeah, best left side in football by far, I would say. And yeah, I mean, two of the top 8 players on our list. Landon was 8, Jordan was 6, and I had them higher. I had Jordan at 5 and Landon at 6 on my personal list. And that's probably
You had him at 5, you said?
I had Jordan at 5
Okay.
and I had Landon at 6 on my personal list.
There's one specific player I thought Mailata would have came in front of, but he didn't come in. What do you think? 6 is too low for Jordan? I think
I do. I
you had him at
not
5.
ton.
So
I had him at 5,
yeah,
but you can argue he should be higher. I mean, he's the highest graded player in football by
right.
Yeah, and part of it is for me, like Jordan will not say that he's better than Lane ever, as long as he lives. And I'm not saying he is. But you can make the argument he is, but he just will not acknowledge that. That's how much respect he has for Lane Johnson, and he will say it's not even close.
And at the surface, isn't he playing a harder position? Left was always looked at as harder than right. Or
yeah,
more
generally, it's not as much as it was in years past, but it's generally considered still to be the toughest. And then some of the other guys that are ahead of them, skill position players, that factors into it. People are enamored by skill position players. And Jalen Carter's immense talent. Like right now, I mean, if you're just going to say, all right, who had a better season last year? Jordan Mailata certainly had a better season than arguably any of them, but pedigree's still a thing.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. You think he's over that hump? I think he might be. I think he's
I think the All-Pro thing got him over, and I voted for him to be All-Pro, first team All-Pro, by the way. And he should have been first team All-Pro last year, but it is what it is. He got over it, and for him, I mean, got life-changing money twice, and he's happy. And he's happy to be part of this team and be a leader on this team. And again, maybe down the road, it hurts him when you start talking about Hall of Fame trajectory. But other than that, he's already made his money. So I don't think it affects him that much.
Yeah, you talk about the story, John, of him and how incredible the story is. What part of that story do you think is most worthy of extended conversation when the career is done and dusted? What do you think? Will there be a 30 for 30? I mean, what part of it sticks out to you the most?
The ground floor aspect of it. He literally had to be told how to put on his helmet when he started playing football. Why would he know? Was an Australian rugby player.
I'd love to ask Jordan, like, when did it click for you? When did you look and say, I belong in the NFL? Like, I can do this.
I've asked him that question. He, one of the funniest things is Joe Osman, who I brought up earlier, for people that remember Joe. Joe used to torture Jordan in one-on-ones. Joe was a great pass rusher in college. He was going to play. He was earning, on the verge of earning a role when he tore his ACL. And then his career went in a downward trajectory. Jim Schwartz was using him as sort of an inside rusher. He was very undersized, very quick. And you can imagine Jordan at 6'8". Now, one-on-ones in Stoutland will tell you it's far easier for the pass rusher than the offensive lineman. So you have to bake that into it. But, Joe used to torture him. And yeah, his head would, drop a little bit at times, and that's where Kelsey comes in and Lane comes in. And you got to explain, like, he doesn't know that probably. You go up, if you're an offensive lineman, you're doing one-on-ones in high school and college, like, what it is.
Right.
And you're going to get beat, and somebody's going to, even Lane Johnson, Brandon Graham would occasionally beat Lane Johnson in one-on-ones. Oh, Lane got beat. He doesn't give a shit. He knows what it is. But if you're trying to build that confidence, it could have a negative effect. And, but he just took it because, and that's where I give Lane and Jason Kelsey and some of the other guys, down to people like LaRaven Clark, a ton of credit, because they made him understand what it is. And use it to get better, and use it to get better. And Jordan loves Joe Osman, by the way. And he just used it all to get better and better and better. And he always had more God-given gifts than everybody else. So that's where it starts. He's just bigger and stronger than everybody else, and faster. Anybody who's as strong as him isn't as fast as him. And everybody who's as fast as him isn't as strong as him. So it's one of those things where, he's got better God-given gifts than everybody else. He's sort of like Joel Embiid, but with a work ethic.
Yeah. It's actually a great comp.
Now, at it, obviously at a much less profiled position. A lot of people don't, as I say.
Right.
Offensive linemen are probably more famous in Philadelphia than anywhere else, but still, compared to skill position players or superstars in other sports, they're not in that realm. But he's got that kind of talent at his particular position.
You talked about the story of Baldy, and Ross Tucker saying early about it. You've covered it the whole time, John. You've been here the whole time for Mailata. When did it switch for you from this is a good story to holy shit, this guy is like a Hall of Fame level player? When did it switch for you, or when did you notice that switch?
Oh, probably not till 2023, to be honest. I mean, because even when he starts playing well early, and you say, all right, well, people will adjust and figure it out. And, maybe he doesn't have the technique, and that's where Stoutland comes in, and people will ultimate, and they just left him out there. That's another thing. The Eagles have the best luxury for an offensive play caller, offensive coordinator, whether it's Shane Steichen or Brian Johnson or Kellen Moore or Kevin Patullo. I don't care who it is. They have a big advantage over every other offensive coordinator, because the Eagles are the only team, and I mean only team in the NFL, that starts every week with, we don't have to help our tackles. And they kept leaving him out there by himself, and you start to go, whoa, I mean, they really trust this guy.
Right.
And he just keeps producing and producing.
And then on top of that, by the way, he was delivering the goods out there alone. Yeah.
And he keeps, stoning people, producing. And yeah. But, there's always that doubt because of the pedigree. It's like, I freely admit when Baldy and Ross Tucker got their first looks at him, because he is so big and they're offensive linemen and they know how rare it is. And when you're that big and you can move like he does, that's what they were enamored with. And it's just so rare. But yeah, I kind of chuckled at it. I'm like, come on, the guy just got here. Give him a break.
Right.
And they were right. So I give them their due. They're just due. But a lot of people factored into that, from Stoutland to all the guys I mentioned.
Is he your favorite player story on the team right now? From a
macro?
Yeah,
I mean, I think he'd have to be. I think he'd have to be. And now that Brandon's retired, well, I always joke my favorite Eagle is either, people ask me that a lot, who's my favorite Eagle? And I joke it's the bald Eagle they bring out at training camp because he's the best Eagle ever.
Very McMullen answer, I'll say that.
Or I'll say like Glenn Fry or Don Henley from the band. Because I don't, I'm not a fan.
Those aren't the dudes that they cut, right?
Who? No, that's the band, the Eagles.
No, what's the band? They got rid of a band last year, though. What was that band called?
Oh no, the Pep.
Yeah, the Pep band. That's it.
No, the Eagles are like one of the most popular bands of all time. The like real music.
Yeah, the real band.
So anyway,
they got rid of the Pep band.
So I always say, Glenn Fry or Don Henley, but in all seriousness, just from a person, it was always Brandon Graham for years. I mean, because you can't not like Brandon Graham, but it's just on a personal level. And now I would say Jordan's in that category. You can't not like Jordan Mailata. Again, people gravitate towards him. So from all aspects of it, yeah, it's by far the best story on the Eagles.
Yeah, I agree. How much credit, John, in the story do you give Jeff Stoutland? I mean, obviously we talk about him as one of the best offensive line coaches in the game, maybe ever. And Mailata is probably his best story of an individual player that he's developed. Obviously, a lot still goes on Jordan. You talked about the physical gifts he's been given by God and some of those different things, but how much credit does Jeff Stoutland get? This is one that I think he'll be telling this story on his deathbed, maybe.
Yeah, he should. I mean, of all the great offensive linemen that Jeff Stoutland has tutored, this is the lead student. This is the guy you advertise for Jeff Stoutland University. Because, Lane Johnson was the 4th pick in the draft. Supposed to be great.
Exactly.
Landon Dickerson, we talked about him earlier in the week because he's number 8 on our list. And, he was the 37th pick, but he would have been a first-round pick if he didn't tear his ACL. Cam Jurgens, high-level pick. It developed a good player, no question about it. So on and on and on. He's had so many great offensive linemen, but this is a guy he built from the ground floor, as I said. And I go back to the Alliance of American Football. I tell this story a lot. It was me and Damo asked Stout, because at the time, Charlie Ebersol was kind of a con man, was trying to pretend like the NFL was going to get in business with the AAF as a developmental league, which the NFL would never do. They have a free developmental league. It's called college football. So they would never do that. But anyway, he was starting to talk about it. Charlie Ebersol. So we asked Jeff Stoutland, would you like, because at the time, Mailata was just a developmental player. And we asked him, hey, would you ever consider sending him over to the AAF to get some reps? And Stoutland was like, I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to mess with that. I don't want somebody else getting their hands on him, because again, maybe they have some bad habits, whatever they teach, and he just wanted no part of it.
Yeah, I can't blame him for that.
Yeah, so that part of it is kind of understandable from now that I think about it from Stoutland's standpoint. But certainly, yeah, he's a big part of it. I mean, he's the best developmental offensive line coach in the league, and that goes far beyond Jordan Mailata, but it's also the lead bullet point of his resume. It works both ways.
Yeah, no doubt about it. A couple last questions for you on Jordan Mailata. Is it fair to say he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory? Is it too late? I mean, I know you just kind of said if he has a couple more years like this, you think he would get there. What do you think it takes to get Jordan Mailata into the Hall of Fame, which would be an unbelievable finish for him if he got to the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I mean, I think if he plays, he's only 28. I brought that up. He started very young.
Yeah, and look at Lane playing this good at 35. I'm sure
Yeah.
Jordan looked at that and is like, boy, I got some time left.
Yeah, I mean, if he 4 or 5 years, but that's where it matters that he starts piling up all pros and Pro Bowls. It does matter when you start talking about Hall of Fame. But to me, yeah, he's definitely on the trajectory. He's played at a Hall of Fame level for 3, 4 years now. But you have to do it from a longer perspective. Um, and a lot of people say Saquon. I heard somebody saying this morning that he wasn't, and I'm like, he isn't, but he is. And I've tried to explain that because of his reputation, because of his pedigree. I think he's already a Hall of Famer. He's already getting in. Can't prove that. He's already getting in. Ultimately, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And part of it is because he came out as the second overall pick, and he was spun as this great, rare talent. And even though he struggled from a perspective of being on a bad team with the New York Giants from a team perspective, he showed signs, but the minute he clicked here, went over, forget about 2000 to 2,504, won a Super Bowl. As long as he plays 3 more years at an acceptable level, he's going in. With Jordan, you don't have that cachet.
Right.
A lot of things factor into it, so it's a little bit more
28,
difficult.
man. If he plays at this level or comparable to this level till he's Lane Johnson's age, I think he's shoe in Hall of Famer. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see. The offensive line's a little bit tougher to gauge. John, last question. An Aussie who never puts on a helmet comes to America and gets drafted by the Eagles in the 7th round, 233 overall, and becomes what he has become. What kind of an impact do you think that could have on the global game? I know the NFL has been trying to push that. Eagles fans might not give a shit about this question, but I am interested in it. Do you think it opens up more of a pipeline for global players or global people to try and get into the league? I mean, it's kind of the best success story, right? I mean, this guy never played football, and now he's making $20 million a year being one of the best offensive linemen in football. Do you think it could open up more of that?
Yeah, I mean, it helps. The Eagles are trying to do it again with Lakin, who's also an Australian rugby player.
Yeah.
But to me, the issue with international in the NFL is nobody plays football overseas. Like you see basketball and hockey, they've invaded essentially because everybody plays it. It's getting better, but people generally play it at a very low level overseas, wherever, Australia, Europe, wherever. So you're not developing players good enough to play in the NFL. If that changes, and I don't think it will, but if that changes, sure. But football is such a uniquely American sport It's very niche, I would say, outside of this country. And it's not the same as basketball or hockey or something of that nature, where, you know, some of the best players in the world in basketball are now Europeans and elsewhere. Same thing with hockey. So, and that's because it's popular. They're playing it from, when they're 7, 8 years old, same as here. So it becomes, the gap was closing the minute the original dream team in basketball. You can talk more about hockey, but the minute the original dream team destroyed everybody, the gap was closing because basketball became so popular on a worldwide basis, and that meant kids over there were picking it up and becoming the Djokovic's of the world and people like that. So, yeah.
Pretty amazing story that Jordan Mailata is. A 95.2 offense grade last year on PFF, first out of 81 tackles. He was the first out of 72 tackles in run blocking grade, 94.6. Second out of 80 in pass block grade with a 90.8. Unbelievable for Jordan Mailata. And he falls at number 6 on the SI top 25 Eagles list. Well done there, Johnny Mac. What a great player. What a great story. What a great conversation. And, man, I am excited to see what Jordan does for the rest of his career, because, as you point out, he is 28, but, boy, he could have a little bit of an extended shelf life here in Philly. I'm very excited to see where it goes from here. It's hard. It's one thing to go from can't put my helmet on to here. It's a big climb. It's a lot harder to go up from here, Johnny Mac, but I still think Jordan could, man.
Yeah, I don't know how much higher you can go.
I don't know.
This is about maintenance, so to speak. I don't expect him to be a highest rated player again, but hey, who knows? It's hard when you're number one to continue to be number one, but I do expect him to be in the conversation to be the best left tackle in football for the next at least 3-4 years.
Yeah, good stuff there from Jordan Mailata. Great segment. And he comes in at number 6 again. Appreciate everybody being here. Any super chats that we get, we will hit. Any comments we get that are worthy, we will pull up on the screen if I see them. It's hard to see as many are coming in. Angelo, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Kimberly, good to see you. Real Zeal, Dawood. Mike Fittery, what's up, everybody? We appreciate all of you guys. Thank you, gang. Appreciate everybody for being here this morning. Don't forget to hit that like button. We'll take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we got plenty of stuff still to talk about. Got about an hour and 6 minutes left to play here on Birds 365. So we'll continue to break some stuff down, dive into the training camp previews and whatnot, and see maybe we'll tap into what Johnny Mac's been writing over on SI. So we'll tap into that. Appreciate you all being here. Hit that like button. We'll be right back on Birds 365.